The mail-order bride never arrived, until the cowboy found her fighting to stay alive. Ryder Cole wiped the sweat from his forehead and squinted at the horizon. The twin suns of Praridon were dipping low, painting the alien landscape in soft shades of orange and pink. The air smelled faintly metallic, a side effect of the planet's mineral-rich soil, and the wind carried a hint of the strange flora that clung stubbornly to the rolling hills. Out here, nothing grew easily, and every green patch felt like a victory. Ryder adjusted his wide-brimmed hat and scanned the dusty trail that led back to the small settlement. The wind tossed the long strands of his hair across his face, but he didn't mind. Out here, on the frontier of a new world, the wind felt like company. He had been waiting a long time, and he wasn't going to give up hope now. "Where are you, Elara Vance?" he muttered to himself, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "Supposed to be here by now." The mail-order system had promised her arrival weeks ago. Ryder had written countless letters before she even left Earth, telling her about the rolling hills, the small farm he had carved out of the wild, and the dreams he had for the future. She had replied with careful, thoughtful letters filled with hope and a touch of humor. And then silence. He kicked a small stone along the path, watching it tumble and disappear into the red dust. The delivery AI had sent back messages about ship delays, rerouted flights, and cosmic storms that sometimes made transport impossible. Each message had a polite tone, but none of them told him anything concrete about her whereabouts. Ryder didn't like waiting. He never had. But he had learned patience was a necessity here on Praridon. Ryder's thoughts were interrupted by the soft humming of a wind generator nearby. The settlement wasn't big, maybe a dozen structures, all built with reinforced alloys and energy panels. Most settlers preferred staying near the cliffs, where solar capture was better and water sources were more reliable. Ryder's farm was farther out, on the gentle slope that faced the eastern sun. It was a good spot for growing the small crops that survived the unpredictable weather. He walked toward his small homestead, taking in the sight of the farm. Rows of alien crops shimmered slightly in the evening light. Some looked like oversized stalks of wheat, while others had leaves that glowed faintly at dusk. It wasn't much, but Ryder had managed to coax life out of this harsh soil. Every plant was a reminder of human persistence, of determination. He paused near the fence and ran his hand over a cluster of green sprouts. "If she comes," he whispered, "you'll see. She'll help this place grow even more." Ryder's thoughts drifted to the letters he had received from Elara. Her words were always careful, precise, yet full of warmth. She had a sharp mind, he could tell, and intelligence was worth more than any wealth in a place like this. The frontier didn't care about charm or beauty. It cared about skill, patience, and the ability to think quickly. Ryder had a feeling she had all three. As the suns dipped lower, Ryder mounted his hoverbike, a sturdy machine with reinforced wheels and a small cargo compartment. It hummed beneath him, a comforting reminder of human ingenuity. He rode along the trails leading toward the cliffs, eyes scanning the horizon. The wind stung his cheeks and dust clung to his clothes, but he didn't slow down. There were reports of scattered cargo pods lost in the storms, and he hoped, foolishly or not, that one of those pods might carry Elara. Hours passed. The sky turned a deeper orange, then purple. The moons of Praridon began to rise, casting silver shadows across the hills. Ryder's hoverbike slowed as he approached the edge of a canyon. This was one of the dangerous areas, where strong winds could push a careless rider off balance. Ryder had learned to respect the winds here, to read them like an old friend. He dismounted and scanned the rocks below. The canyon was wide, jagged, and silent. No ships, no signs of life. He let out a slow breath, feeling the weight of disappointment settle over him. The mail-order system was supposed to make things simple. But here, simple rarely existed. Ryder sat on a rock, his boots dangling over the edge. He remembered the first time he had looked out over this canyon. He had been alone then, thinking of the lonely life ahead. Now he wanted someone to share this with, someone to fight the frontier with him, someone whose mind and heart could match the vastness of the land. The wind shifted suddenly, carrying a faint, metallic hum. Ryder's ears perked up. It wasn't the wind turbines nor the settling dust. It was something different. He frowned and rose to his feet, scanning the horizon. The hum came again, soft but insistent. A signal. He frowned deeper. Only a handful of things could produce that sound. Cargo pods sometimes if they were damaged in storms. Rover drones could make it too. But the pattern, irregular, almost human, caught his attention. Ryder didn't hesitate. He jumped onto the hoverbike and headed toward the source, following the faint trail through the rough terrain. The canyon floor was littered with jagged rocks and strange plants that glowed faintly in the moonlight. Ryder navigated carefully, using his years of frontier experience to anticipate the shifts in terrain. After what felt like hours, he spotted a small metallic object half buried under a pile of rocks and dust. He jumped off the bike and ran closer, heart pounding. The object was a pod, small and dented, its surface scratched by the harsh journey. And then he saw her. A figure was slumped against the side of the pod, weak but alive. She coughed, her voice barely a whisper. "Help, please," Ryder's heart surged. "Ilara," he called, running to her side. She looked up at him, eyes wide, filled with a mix of fear and relief. She was covered in dust and scratches, but her spirit was evident in the sharp determination in her gaze. He knelt beside her, careful not to startle her. "I've got you," he said. "You're safe now, just hold on." Ilara tried to sit up but winced. "The pod, the storm, I didn't think I'd make it," she said. Her voice was weak, but there was a strange strength behind it. She had survived days alone, rationing scraps, staying alive through sheer cleverness. Ryder realized immediately. This was no ordinary bride. She was a survivor and she had fought hard to remain alive. Ryder helped her stand, steadying her. She leaned heavily on him and together they made their way to the hoverbike. The ride back to the settlement was quiet, the only sound the gentle hum of the machine. Ryder kept glancing at her, amazed. She didn't complain. She didn't panic. She had endured. When they reached his homestead, Ryder led her inside. Warm air greeted them, a stark contrast to the chill outside. He offered her water, and she drank eagerly, finally relaxing for the first time in days. I thought I'd never see another human," she said, her voice trembling slightly. Ryder smiled gently. "You're here now," he said, "and you're going to be part of this life together." Ilara looked around the small cabin, the modest farm outside, and the hills stretching endlessly under the twin moons. Despite the harshness of the land, she saw potential. She saw hope. And she saw the man who had refused to give up on her. For Ryder, the wait had been long, filled with uncertainty and worry. But seeing her alive, seeing her strength, he realized it had been worth every lonely day. Out here on the frontier, humans didn't just survive, they thrived. And Ilara had already proven she could do both. As the night deepened, Ryder and Ilara talked quietly, sharing stories of their lives, their dreams, and their fears. The hum of the wind generators outside and the soft glow of the alien crops created a peaceful backdrop. For the first time in weeks, Ryder felt a calm certainty. She was here, she was real, and together they would face whatever this world threw at them. Outside, the twin moons reflected off the canyon walls, casting silver light across the land. In that quiet glow, Ryder and Ilara began to imagine a life together, not one promised in letters, but one built with effort, courage, and partnership. The frontier was harsh. Life was unpredictable. But with determination, skill, and human ingenuity, they could carve something extraordinary out of it. And so, the story of Ryder Cole and Ilara Vance began, not with an arrival as planned, but with a discovery, a rescue, and the first steps toward a future only humans could create. The morning sun rose slowly over Prairie Dawn, spilling pale gold light across Ryder Cole's farm. The twin sons had a habit of painting everything in soft colors before they grew harsh, and Ryder liked these quiet hours. He was already awake, checking the crops that had survived the week's unpredictable weather. The alien plants shimmered faintly, their leaves reflecting the sunlight like tiny mirrors. Despite the rocky soil and erratic storms, life here clung stubbornly, just like the humans who settled this planet. Ryder's thoughts kept drifting back to Alara. She had slept most of the night, exhausted from her days stranded in the canyon pod. Ryder had left her in the cabin, tucked under a thick blanket with the warm glow of the hearth beside her. Her breathing had been steady, but he could still hear the faint rasp when she shifted in sleep. It reminded him just how lucky he was to have found her alive. He finished watering the crops and went to the cabin to check on her. The door creaked as he opened it. Alara was awake, sitting on the edge of the bed, staring at a small notebook in her hands. Ryder noticed the faint smile on her face, the way her eyes reflected curiosity and intelligence. "Good morning," Ryder said softly. "How are you feeling?" Alara looked up and gave a small nod. "Better," she said. Her voice was still quiet, but it carried strength. "I slept like I haven't slept in weeks. I kept thinking about what I'd do if I didn't make it, about the settlement, about the people, about you." Ryder's chest tightened. "You don't have to thank me," he said. I'm glad you're alive, that's enough." Alara smiled faintly and returned to her notebook. Ryder didn't pry. He knew some things were better spoken when the mind was ready. Instead, he sat nearby and watched as she carefully sketched notes about the plants outside, the unusual soil, and the strange patterns she had seen in the canyon where she had survived. "You were resourceful," Ryder said finally. "I don't think anyone else could have stayed alive as long as you did," Alara shrugged. "It was just about figuring out what worked and what didn't. Every day I survived, I learned something new. The soil, the water, the pods, everything taught me something. I just kept going." Ryder nodded, impressed. Humans had a remarkable ability to adapt, and Alara was a perfect example. Here was a woman who had arrived on a foreign planet, in a damaged pod, with no tools, no support. And yet she had not only survived but had figured out ways to make the harsh canyon livable. The day passed slowly, with Ryder helping her recover and Alara showing curiosity about the settlement. She asked questions about the crops, the water filtration systems, and the communication devices they used to stay in touch with other parts of the colony. Ryder answered patiently, realizing that while he had lived here for years, Alara's mind saw possibilities he hadn't considered. Later, while they repaired a small broken water pump together, Ryder noticed her attentiveness. She didn't just follow instructions. She observed, suggested improvements, and tested solutions. Ryder realized she wasn't just surviving, she was thriving, and that was rare, especially in the frontier. "I think we can modify this pump so it runs more efficiently," Alara said, pointing to a worn gear. "If we reinforce it with some of the alloy scraps from the pod, it could last twice as long." Ryder scratched his head. "You really think that will work?" Alara nodded confidently. "It'll work. We just need to make sure the balance is right and the pressure doesn't build up too fast. I saw something similar in the pod's manual before the storm fried the circuits." Ryder grinned. "All right, let's try it." By mid-afternoon, the pump was running smoother than it had in months. Ryder leaned back and whistled. "Not bad, Alara, not bad at all." Alara smiled, the faint pink of pride in her cheeks. "Not bad for a stranger who's only been here a day." The humor eased Ryder's tension. He felt a warmth in his chest he hadn't expected. It wasn't just attraction, it was admiration. This woman had fought against impossible odds, and now she was helping him make the settlement better. Just as they were finishing, Ryder's attention was drawn to a flicker in the canyon ridge. At first, he thought it was a trick of the light, but then he noticed a faint movement, a shimmer against the rocky slopes. Ryder's instincts kicked in. He squinted, trying to focus. "Alara," he said quietly, "do you see that?" She leaned closer, her eyes narrowing. "Yes, it looks like a signal." Ryder felt a rush of curiosity and caution. Signals out here usually meant one of three things: another human, an animal, or malfunctioning tech. Out here with the wind and the strange minerals, visual distortions were common. But this movement, it was deliberate, patterned. Someone was trying to communicate. Without hesitation, Ryder grabbed his hoverbike keys. "We should check it out," he said. "If someone's out there, they might need help." Alara nodded. "Let's go." The ride to the ridge was tense but exciting. The twin suns had dipped low again, and the canyon cast long shadows. The hum of the hoverbike blended with the whispering wind. Ryder rode carefully, leading Alara, who held onto the side of the bike with steady hands. She wasn't afraid, just alert, scanning the terrain. When they reached the source of the shimmer, they found a small, metallic object partially buried under rocks, a distress beacon, slightly damaged but still blinking weakly. Ryder knelt to examine it while Alara observed. "This is old tech," Ryder muttered. "Must have been here for a while." Alara crouched beside him, eyes scanning the surface. "It's not just old tech. Look at the way it's signaling. Someone modified it to send specific patterns. Someone wants to be found." Ryder nodded slowly. "Then we find out who." Using tools from his pack, Ryder carefully cleared the debris and activated the beacon. A soft chirping sound emerged, and a small holographic screen flickered to life. A human figure appeared, waving weakly. The image was shaky, but Ryder recognized the features immediately. "Alara," he breathed. The figure on the hologram nodded. "Yes, help me, please." Ryder's heart leaped. "It's another person, or maybe someone we know." Alara studied the image. "The coordinates, they're close but different. Someone else is stranded." Without hesitation, Ryder mapped the coordinates on his wrist device. It was a dangerous part of the canyon, steep cliffs, hidden crevices, and unpredictable winds. But Ryder had faced worse, and with Alara at his side, he felt confident. Together, they could navigate anything. "Let's move," Ryder said, determination in his voice. "We can't leave them out there." The journey was treacherous. They maneuvered through narrow paths, hopping over crevices, using ropes where needed, and carefully balancing on uneven terrain. Alara proved invaluable, spotting safe footholds and calculating angles Ryder might have missed. Ryder realized that having her beside him made the dangerous journey feel less risky. Her intelligence and focus were as much a tool as any rope or hoverbike. Hours passed, and the sun set completely, leaving only the faint glow of the moons. Ryder and Alara finally reached a small plateau where another pod lay hidden beneath rocks and debris. A faint light flickered from inside. Ryder rushed forward, helping Alara clear the wreckage. Inside, a young scientist was trying to maintain a small fire using a manual ignition device. He looked up in surprise, eyes wide with relief. "You found me," he exclaimed, voice trembling. I thought I'd be here forever." Ryder smiled, offering a hand. "Not forever. We're here now, you're safe." Alara stepped forward, examining the pod. "You've been here alone?" she asked gently. The scientist nodded. "The storm, it knocked out the navigation. My comms failed. I had some food, some water, but I didn't know how long I could last." Ryder and Alara shared a look. Together, they had survived the canyon. Now they had found someone else who needed help. Ryder felt a surge of pride. Humans didn't just survive alone. They thrived when they worked together, and this was another example. Carefully, they helped the scientist out of the pod. He was weak but conscious, and with Ryder and Alara's guidance, they navigated back to the hoverbike. The ride back to the settlement was tense but safe. Each mile reminded Ryder why humans were remarkable: their resilience, ingenuity, and willingness to help one another. When they finally reached the settlement, the small group of settlers came rushing out, amazed at the return of the stranded scientist. Cheers and relieved laughter filled the air. Ryder and Alara exchanged a quiet smile. Together, they had not just survived, they had saved another human being. That night, Ryder sat outside, watching the stars. Alara joined him, handing him a cup of warm tea. "You know," she said softly, "I think we're going to do well here. Not because of luck, but because of people, humans." Ryder nodded, sipping the tea. "Yeah, we'll do more than survive, we'll thrive." Above them, the moons reflected off the horizon, silent witnesses to human determination. The frontier was harsh, the world unpredictable, but Ryder knew one thing with certainty. With people like Alara, and with the spirit of humans behind them, nothing could stop them from building something extraordinary. And so the day ended not just with survival, but with hope, ingenuity, and the unmistakable promise of human triumph. The sun rose over Praridon like a soft golden promise, spilling light over the settlement. The air smelled of dust, minerals, and the faint aroma of cooked meals from the settlers' homes. Ryder Cole was already awake, walking along the narrow path to his small farm. Today, he wasn't alone. Alara walked beside him, her boots crunching softly on the dry soil. She moved with a quiet confidence that only came from surviving days alone in a harsh canyon. Ryder noticed how alert she was, always scanning the ground, the plants, the sky. Her curiosity and intelligence were as sharp as any tool he had, and he felt a quiet admiration growing with every step. "You know," Alara said, breaking the silence, "I've been thinking about the crops. Some of them could grow faster if we adjust the soil mix. Maybe add a bit of crushed mineral from the canyon rocks. They're rich in nutrients." Ryder raised an eyebrow. "You mean the rocks that nearly crushed you?" Alara smiled faintly. "Exactly those. Nature doesn't waste anything. Why should we?" Ryder chuckled. She was fearless, clever, and practical. All qualities he had learned to respect in this frontier life. The thought that she was going to be part of this settlement, part of his life, felt both exciting and comforting. When they reached the farm, Ryder noticed the crops already showing signs of stress from the recent storms. Alara knelt down, touching the leaves gently. "We'll need to adjust the irrigation," she said. "The water from the pumps is strong in some areas, weak in others. If we level it, the plants will get what they need." Ryder nodded. "You've got a plan for everything, don't you?" Alara looked up, her eyes bright with determination. "I survived on plans. You learn fast when mistakes could cost you everything." Together they worked. Ryder guided her where heavy lifting was needed, while she devised clever ways to distribute water and nutrients more evenly. By the afternoon, the crops were healthier, the soil better aerated, and the irrigation system more efficient than it had ever been. Ryder leaned back, wiping sweat from his forehead, and admired the work. "You know," he said, "I thought I knew everything about this farm. Turns out I didn't." Alara laughed softly. "We all learn, Ryder, even people who have been here for years." After the farm work, Ryder led Alara to the settlement's communal area. The other settlers were curious about her, but Ryder noticed they also respected her calm confidence. Unlike most newcomers, she didn't act frightened or unsure. She asked questions, observed carefully, and offered ideas without demanding attention. One of the elders, a wiry man named Tom, approached. "You've got skills, girl. That pod didn't just keep you alive, it trained you." Alara smiled politely. "I learned a lot from the pod and the canyon. There's always something to figure out." Tom chuckled. "Smart answer. Smart people survive here. You'll fit in well." Ryder noticed the bond forming between her and the settlement already. It wasn't instant friendship, but respect and curiosity. Humans, he thought, had a way of connecting even in the most unusual places, and Alara had that spark that drew people in. As the afternoon waned, Ryder and Alara returned to his cabin. He opened the small storage chest and pulled out materials he had been saving for repairs. "We need to fix the roof before the next storm," he said. Alara examined the panels. "We can reinforce it with alloy strips." It'll last longer than before, maybe even survive a minor quake. Ryder nodded, impressed. Let's do it. For the next several hours they worked side by side. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the settlement. Dust clung to their clothes and sweat ran down their foreheads, but neither complained. The work was hard but satisfying. As the roof took shape, Ryder realized something important. Alara wasn't just surviving with him, she was teaching him to thrive. During a short break, Ryder handed her a mug of water. "You know," he said, "I never thought a Maylord or bride could change so much about a place in just a day." Alara laughed, the sound soft and musical. "I'm not just a Maylord or bride, I'm a problem solver." "That's what kept me alive," Ryder grinned. "Well, problem solver, I'm glad you're here." Evening fell, painting the sky in streaks of purple and orange. The settlement was quiet now, with only a few settlers tending to chores or preparing meals. Ryder and Alara sat on the porch, watching the twin moons rise. Silence settled between them, comfortable and peaceful. "You've been through a lot," Ryder said quietly. "I can't imagine what it was like in the canyon alone." Alara took a deep breath. "It was scary at first, yes. But I focused on small things, finding water, shelter, making a fire. I made lists in my head, routines. If I stayed calm and worked steadily, I could survive. The hardest part was being alone, not the storms or the canyon itself." Ryder nodded, understanding. Humans, he thought, could endure anything if they had patience and a plan. Alara's endurance reminded him of that truth. "Do you ever get scared out here?" he asked. "Of course," she said honestly. "But fear doesn't stop me. It tells me to be careful, to plan, to think ahead." "That's how I survived," Ryder smiled. He realized that she wasn't just brave, she was smart, adaptable, and thoughtful, qualities he admired deeply. And he realized, too, that this wasn't just about survival, it was about partnership. Over the next few days, their bond grew stronger. Ryder showed Alara the nearby cliffs, the hidden water sources, and the alien plants that were edible. She shared ideas on improving farming techniques, water management, and energy collection. Together, they created plans for better irrigation, stronger shelters, and safer paths through the canyon. One afternoon, as they worked on a solar panel array, Ryder noticed Alara pausing to sketch the terrain in her notebook. "What are you drawing?" he asked. "I'm mapping," she replied. "The way the winds move through the canyon, the safest spots to travel, the areas with the richest soil. If we use this map, the settlement could expand safely." Ryder whistled. "That's brilliant. I wouldn't have thought of that." Alara shrugged modestly. "I had time to think when I was stranded. Thinking became my survival tool." The day ended with a quiet meal. Ryder cooked, and Alara helped organize the supplies. They shared stories of Earth, of hopes for the settlement and small dreams for the future. Ryder listened, fascinated. Her perspective was different, fresh, and full of promise. As night fell, Ryder stepped outside with Alara to check the weather. The moons cast silvery light over the hills, and the alien plants glimmered faintly. Ryder felt a sense of peace he hadn't felt in years. The frontier was harsh, unpredictable, but with Alara at his side, he realized it didn't feel so lonely anymore. "You know," Ryder said softly, "I've been out here for years thinking I could handle anything. But now, with you, I feel like we could handle anything together." Alara smiled, her eyes reflecting the moonlight. "I feel the same. Alone, I survived. With you, I feel like we can build something lasting." It wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about creating, improving, and thriving. Ryder felt a warmth in his chest he couldn't describe. This wasn't the life he had expected when he ordered a Maylord or bride. It was something richer, partnership, respect, and a shared vision for the future. Over the next week, Ryder and Alara worked tirelessly together. They repaired homes, reinforced water channels, and improved the energy grids. The settlers began to notice the changes. Alara's ideas, combined with Ryder's experience, transformed the settlement. Crops grew stronger, paths became safer, and energy collection improved. Through it all, Ryder admired her quietly. She wasn't just strong and clever, she was inspiring. Her presence reminded everyone that humans could adapt, create, and flourish even in the most challenging environments. One evening, as the twin moons rose high, Ryder and Alara stood on the porch, watching the settlement glow softly in the moonlight. The sounds of laughter, conversation, and gentle work filled the air. Ryder realized with a deep sense of pride that this wasn't just survival, this was thriving. Alara looked at him, eyes full of quiet determination. "We're just getting started," she said. Ryder nodded. "And nothing can stop us." The night was calm, the air crisp, and the settlement peaceful. But Ryder knew that the frontier would always hold challenges. Storms would come, paths would change, and unexpected problems would arise. Yet with Alara by his side, he felt ready. Together they were unstoppable, not through force, but through ingenuity, patience, and partnership. And so, the bond between Ryder and Alara grew stronger with each passing day. They weren't just surviving, they were shaping the future of Praridon, one clever idea, one small victory, and one shared moment at a time. The morning air on Praridon was sharp, carrying the scent of dust and minerals. Ryder Cole stepped outside his cabin, squinting at the horizon. Something felt different today. He couldn't put his finger on it at first, but the sky seemed restless. The twin suns had risen, casting long shadows, and the wind carried an unusual chill for this season. Alara appeared beside him, holding a small tablet she had been using to track weather patterns. Her hair caught the sunlight, glinting like copper in the morning. "Ryder," she said, frowning, "I'm seeing irregular readings. The storms are moving faster than usual. There's a chance we could get a strong surge by afternoon." Ryder's eyes narrowed. "A storm? Already? The systems are reinforced, but it's been weeks since the last big one." Alara shook her head. "This one's different, it's unpredictable. If we're not ready, it could cause serious damage to the settlement." He nodded, the familiar tension settling in his chest. Life on the frontier was unpredictable, but Ryder had learned long ago that preparation made all the difference. "All right," he said. "Let's make sure the settlement is ready." Together, Ryder and Alara began organizing the settlers. They moved quickly, checking structures, reinforcing walls, securing loose equipment, and double-checking water and energy supplies. Alara's sharp mind was invaluable. She suggested using nearby rocks and sand to stabilize weak foundations and rerouting small irrigation channels to prevent flooding. One of the younger settlers, a boy named Kieran, asked nervously, "Do you really think we'll be okay?" Alara smiled at him reassuringly. "We're humans, we've survived worse. We just need to work together and stay calm." Ryder nodded, impressed. Her calm confidence was contagious. Even the most anxious settlers seemed steadier with her giving instructions. By mid-morning, clouds began to gather on the horizon. Dark, swirling masses that moved quickly across the twin suns. The wind picked up, rustling through the alien crops and stirring dust into small whirlwinds. Ryder and Alara stood on a small rise overlooking the settlement, assessing their progress. "We've done everything we can," Ryder said. "Now it's just about timing and reaction." Alara nodded. "Agreed, but I have an idea. The storm is strong, yes, but we might be able to use the terrain to our advantage. The canyon to the east can act as a wind buffer if we channel it correctly." Ryder tilted his head. "How?" Alara quickly sketched a rough diagram on her tablet. "We build temporary barriers using the alloy panels and rock piles. If we guide the wind through the canyon, it won't hit the settlement directly. It'll still be strong but manageable." Ryder's eyes widened. "You think that'll work?" She nodded confidently. "We can do it, but we'll need everyone's help, and we need to start now." Ryder called out to the settlers. "Everyone, gather around. Alara has a plan to help protect the settlement. We need all hands on deck." The settlers moved quickly, inspired by Alara's calm determination. They carried panels, dug small trenches, and stacked rocks along the path of the storm. Ryder and Alara worked side by side, guiding them, adjusting placements and improvising when obstacles appeared. Hours passed, and the wind grew stronger. Dust and small debris swirled around them, but the settlers continued their work, motivated by Ryder and Alara's leadership. Ryder glanced at her frequently, amazed at how methodical and precise she was, even in challenging conditions. "Almost there," she said, wiping sweat from her forehead. "Just a few more panels and we can channel the wind away from the main buildings." Ryder nodded. "Let's finish this." Finally, they completed the barriers. Ryder and Alara took a step back, surveying the settlement. The structures were safe behind the improvised wind channels, and the settlers were exhausted but satisfied. The storm was approaching fast now, and the first gusts hit the barriers, diverting most of the wind and reducing the impact on the settlement. Alara smiled. "It's working." Ryder felt a rush of pride. Humans were capable of incredible things when they worked together. They didn't rely on brute force or luck. They relied on intelligence, planning, and cooperation. This storm was a test of their ingenuity, and they were passing. As the storm raged, Ryder and Alara moved through the settlement, checking on everyone. They found Kieran and a few others securing water supplies and making sure no one was trapped. Ryder felt a warmth in his chest. The settlers were scared, yes, but they were capable. And with Alara guiding them, they were thriving. By evening, the storm began to weaken. The clouds moved past, leaving behind a settled sky, dust, and the soft glow of the twin moons. The settlement had survived with minimal damage, thanks to the quick thinking and leadership of Ryder and Alara. Settlers gathered around the main fire, sharing stories of the storm and praising the ingenuity of their leaders. Ryder looked at Alara, who was quietly surveying the aftermath. She looked tired, but her eyes sparkled with quiet satisfaction. "You did it," Ryder said softly. Alara shook her head. "We did it, all of us. Humans work best together. That's what kept us safe today." Ryder smiled, realizing the truth in her words. Humans weren't just survivors. They were builders, thinkers, problem solvers. The storm had been strong, but it hadn't defeated them. Instead, it had reminded everyone of the strength of collaboration and ingenuity. Over the next few days, Ryder and Alara helped the settlement repair minor damage and improve infrastructure to withstand future storms. They reinforced roofs, built stronger barriers, and adjusted irrigation systems to prevent flooding. Every improvement was small, but it made a significant difference. During this time, Ryder and Alara's bond grew even stronger. They shared meals, planned projects, and laughed over minor mistakes. Ryder noticed how naturally they worked together. Her mind complemented his experience, and his steady presence supported her ideas. One afternoon, as they finished reinforcing a water channel, Ryder turned to Alara. "You know, I've been thinking this storm could have been disastrous, but instead it brought everyone closer and made us stronger." Alara nodded, smiling. "Sometimes challenges reveal what humans are truly capable of. We adapt, we create, and we thrive. That's who we are." Ryder watched the sun dip below the horizon, painting the sky in streaks of gold and purple. He felt a deep sense of satisfaction. The storm had tested them, but they had not only survived, they had grown stronger, smarter, and closer as a community. That night, as the settlers settled in, Ryder and Alara walked to the edge of the farm, overlooking the canyon. The twin moons reflected softly on the alien landscape, and the air was calm for the first time in days. "You know," Ryder said, "I never imagined a storm could teach so much." Alara laughed softly. "It's not the storm, Ryder, it's us. Humans, we find solutions, we protect each other, we adapt." Ryder smiled, feeling a deep sense of connection. "With you by my side, I feel like we can handle anything this planet throws at us." Alara looked at him, her eyes reflecting the moons. "And we will, together." They stood silently for a moment, listening to the soft wind and the distant sounds of the settlement. The storm was over, but the lessons remained. Humans were strong, not because of weapons or force, but because of creativity, courage, and cooperation. Ryder and Alara had proven that together they could overcome any challenge. As they returned to the cabin, Ryder realized something important. Alara wasn't just a partner in survival, she was a partner in life. Her ingenuity, determination, and strength complemented his own, and together they could build a future that was safe, thriving, and full of possibilities. The night settled in, quiet and peaceful. The settlement had survived, and Ryder and Alara had grown closer, stronger, and wiser. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new ideas, and new opportunities. But for now, they had survived together, and that was enough. Outside, the twin moons shone over the hills, a silent witness to human ingenuity, resilience, and hope. Ryder and Alara looked at the moons, knowing that whatever came next, they would face it side by side. And in that quiet moment, Ryder realized the truth. Humans didn't just endure, they thrived. Through intelligence, planning, and partnership, they could shape the future, no matter how harsh the frontier. The unexpected storm had been a test, but it had also been a revelation. With Alara at his side, Ryder knew the settlement was stronger, the community was closer, and their partnership was unbreakable. Together, they were ready for whatever the universe had in store. The first light of dawn stretched across the hills of Praridon, painting the settlement in soft gold and pink. Ryder Cole stepped outside, inhaling the crisp air. The night had been calm, the moons gone, leaving only the distant glimmer of stars and the quiet hum of life in the settlement. After the recent storm, everything felt renewed, stronger, safer, and alive. Alara emerged from the cabin behind him, carrying a small tablet with notes from the day before. Her hair sparkled faintly in the morning light, and her eyes were sharp, alive with curiosity. She paused beside Ryder, glancing across the fields. "The storm left more than damage," she said softly. "It revealed weak points we didn't know we had, and it gave us a chance to improve." Ryder smiled. "You always find opportunity, even in trouble. I don't know how you do it." Alara shrugged lightly. "You just have to pay attention, look for patterns, think ahead. Humans survive because we notice details and act on them. That's what makes us strong." Ryder nodded. He realized she was right. Their survival and the settlement's growth weren't miracles. They were the result of careful observation, planning, and cooperation. Humans didn't just endure Praridon, they adapted, innovated, and thrived. After breakfast, Ryder and Alara went to check the farm. The alien crops had survived the storm, though some of the rows needed attention. Together, they worked to repair minor damage, reinforcing stems, clearing debris, and improving the irrigation channels. Alara suggested mixing small mineral fragments into the soil to strengthen it, and Ryder followed her lead. "You know," he said while adjusting a support beam, "I've seen the frontier throw everything at people, storms, dust, strange plants. But humans, we just keep going." Alara smiled, brushing dust off her hands. "Exactly. That's what makes us remarkable. We don't just survive, we find ways to grow and thrive, even in the hardest places." By late morning, settlers began arriving to help. Ryder noticed the confidence in their steps, the determination in their eyes. The storm had tested them, but now they were more capable, more organized, more hopeful. Ryder realized that Alara's presence had sparked something in the community. Her intelligence, calmness, and initiative were contagious. "Ryder," Alara said, "we should focus on the next project. If we prepare now, the settlement could handle even bigger storms or unexpected challenges." He nodded. "You're right. What do you have in mind?" Alara opened her tablet, displaying a rough map of the surrounding terrain. "We can expand the water system. There are natural reservoirs in the cliffs. With some channels and small pumps, we could bring water directly to more homes and farms. That would help us grow more crops, support more settlers, and make the community stronger. Ryder whistled softly. That's ambitious. But with your planning, I think we can do it. Over the next few hours, Ryder and Alara organized teams of settlers, assigning roles based on skill and experience. They collected materials, dug trenches, and reinforced natural channels with alloy panels and stone. Every step required careful calculation, but the settlers trusted Ryder and Alara's guidance. Alara moved among the groups, checking alignments, suggesting adjustments, and encouraging teamwork. Ryder observed quietly, feeling pride swell in his chest. Humans were capable of remarkable feats when they collaborated, when intelligence and patience guided their actions instead of fear. By afternoon, the new channels were partially complete, and water flowed steadily to parts of the settlement that had previously lacked reliable supply. Settlers cheered, splashing water and laughing. Ryder and Alara exchanged a satisfied glance. They had not only survived the storm, they had strengthened the entire community. As evening approached, Ryder invited Alara to accompany him on a ride across the nearby hills. The hoverbike hummed beneath them as they traveled, gliding over the red dust and glowing alien plants. The twin moons had risen again, casting silver light over the landscape. "You've changed this place," Ryder said quietly. "The settlers, me, everyone. Things feel different now." Alara leaned back slightly, letting the wind brush her face. "We did it together. Humans thrive because we collaborate, because we share ideas and help each other. That's how we survive and grow." Ryder nodded, watching her closely. She had not only survived a harsh canyon alone, but she had helped transform a struggling settlement into a thriving community. He felt a deep sense of admiration, and something warmer than admiration, growing in his chest. They returned to the settlement just as the sky darkened, stars sparkling overhead. Settlers had gathered around the main fire, sharing stories of the storm, of their work, and of the improvements made under Ryder and Alara's guidance. Laughter and conversation filled the air, a sound that felt rare and precious on this frontier world. Ryder noticed the pride in the settlers' eyes. They had been tested and had passed, not through luck or strength, but through human ingenuity, planning, and cooperation. And standing beside him, Alara had been a key part of that success. Later that night, Ryder and Alara walked to the edge of the settlement, overlooking the canyon and distant hills. The moons reflected off the rocks, casting silver light across the landscape. Silence settled over them, but it was a peaceful, comforting silence. "You know," Ryder said softly, "I never imagined that waiting for someone I barely knew, could change my life so much." Alara looked at him, her eyes calm and clear. "Life has a way of surprising us, but humans, we take surprises and turn them into opportunities. That's how we thrive," Ryder smiled. "With you here, I feel like nothing is impossible." Alara returned the smile. "And we're just getting started. There's so much we can do: more crops, stronger structures, better water systems, maybe even expand the settlement. We could make Praridon truly livable for everyone." Ryder's heart swelled. She wasn't just talking about survival, she was talking about creating a future. Together, humans didn't just endure the frontier, they shaped it, improved it, and made it better for the next generation. And now, Ryder realized, he had found someone who shared that vision, someone who could stand beside him not as a follower but as a partner. Over the next week, Ryder and Alara continued their work. They expanded water channels, reinforced buildings, and taught settlers practical skills for thriving in this world. Every project revealed new possibilities and strengthened their community. The settlers were more confident, more organized, and more hopeful than ever before. One evening, after finishing repairs on a small bridge leading to the higher plateau, Ryder and Alara sat together, watching the moons rise. "Do you ever think about the future?" Ryder asked. Alara nodded. "All the time. I think about how we can grow this settlement, how humans can thrive here, and how we can teach others to adapt. I think about building something lasting. Ryder reached for her hand. Then let's do it, together. Alara squeezed his hand, her eyes reflecting the moon's. Together, the days passed with purpose and joy. Settlers worked side by side, learning from Ryder and Alara, sharing knowledge and contributing ideas. The settlement grew stronger, not through violence or force, but through collaboration, intelligence, and determination. One morning, Ryder received a message from the interstellar mail system. A new shipment of supplies and equipment was en route to Praridon. Ryder and Alara began planning how to use the new materials to expand and improve the settlement further. The future looked brighter than ever. That night, as the twin moons shone over the hills, Ryder and Alara walked to the edge of the settlement once more. The alien plants glowed faintly in the moonlight, and the air was calm and crisp. Ryder turned to her. "You came here thinking you were just a Maylord or bride," he said softly, "but you've become so much more. You've changed this place, helped everyone survive, and inspired hope." Alara smiled, her eyes warm. "I survived the canyon alone, Ryder. But here, with humans working together, we thrive. That's what makes life worth living." Ryder nodded, taking a deep breath. "And we'll keep thriving together." Alara leaned closer. "Yes, together." The settlement below them glowed softly, alive with light and laughter. The storm had passed, challenges had been overcome, and the future stretched before them, full of opportunity. Humans had survived, adapted, and improved, proving once again that they could thrive anywhere, no matter how harsh the world. Ryder and Alara stood side by side, watching the horizon. Together, they had faced the unexpected, solved problems, and built a foundation for the future. And together, they would continue to shape this frontier, showing that humanity could not only survive but flourish through intelligence, determination, and partnership. As the night deepened, Ryder realized that the frontier was no longer just a place of survival. It was a place of hope, creativity, and human achievement. And with Alara by his side, there was nothing they could not face. The moons reflected in their eyes, silent witnesses to human ingenuity, courage, and collaboration. Ryder and Alara knew that whatever challenges came next, they would face them together. Not as separate individuals, but as a team, a community, and a living example of what humans could accomplish when they dared to survive and thrive against all odds. And so, the story of Ryder Cole and Alara Vance came to a close, not with an ending but with a beginning. A future bright with possibility, a settlement stronger than ever, and a human spirit that would shine forever on the frontier of Praridon.